Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak were stuck in that garage for years. I mean, Steve Jobs started selling Macs before they even had a product. Like, he literally would start selling Macs without having any inventory, no product. He would say, "Yeah, I have this amazing new product. It's coming out in I don't know, 1984 something." Was that the first when the first Mac was sold? I might be totally wrong.
1984.
Because they had that night, you remember the commercial
Yeah, with the
based on the
color,
George Orwell book? Yeah.
with the colorful Apple symbol.
Yes, exactly. Like breaking the status quo and everything.
Maybe around that
I
time.
don't know. I might be totally wrong, but he was basically selling this thing, and people were like, "What is this?" And he's saying, "Oh,
It's the future.
this is the future. Like this is it is not based on usability and how useful it'll be, but it'll be based on aesthetics, the graphical user interface, like what looks good." And he wanted to basically give the people something else, and a lot of people loved that idea about him. And he spent years
Garage.
in the garage, just doing something he loved, and for other people as well. Like this goes kind of off what you said before. It's because of a philanthropic tendency as well that he wanted to work towards this thing.
I think it was more just ambitious.
Yeah, I mean, ambition is definitely a part of it.
No, no, no. I think not ambition. I think it was a spirit of innovation. I feel he wanted to, because I remember hearing like a autobiography or something along that line about like his life story and how
Mm-hmm.
he was like a nobody in college or like a community college, like a low level school,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't know what he wanted to do with his life, and then he took like like a language, not a language class, like a type of I don't, I forget the language, like a computer course regarding like not cryptography, something along the coding of a computer. And he looked at it and he was like, I could do this differently, or I could do this like he basically took something on a whim, liked it, and then kept pursuing it.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in the beginning probably one of the biggest failures and losers,
Mm.
but he kept doing it, and eventually he
Yeah.
became a world power.
Yeah.
Um, it's unfortunate that he had to pass away
Yeah.
because
He was an innovative
I
mind.
think had he still been the head of Apple, the the path Apple would have taken might have been much more creative or
I agree.
diverse. Maybe.
I still enjoy Apple products, but not as much as I would have if he was still at the helm.
Yeah, but like you have to realize how much of a phenomenon he basically created smartphones
Oh yeah, I know.
like on his own. Well,
Yeah.
not on his own, but like him and his team.
Yeah.
And it started with the iPod first, with that silly little thing where you spin the thing
Yeah.
for the volume.
I used to think those things were so cool when I was younger. I had no idea how they could ever make
Top
this
that.
yeah. Or no, just make this thing like where you don't have to press a button necessarily. You're
To
just
do the
like touching
volume.
a pad, and it's like I was like, I don't know, I was maybe 5 or 6 years old. I was
Yeah, but
flabbergasted.
like look at all those baby steps he had to take, and like a lot of them were like not necessarily successful steps, but he
Hmm.
just kept going forward.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
that brings me to the next thing. It's once you've started doing that thing that you love, you have to expect to fail. Like one misconception I feel like people will just look past is the idea of failure. You know?
Failure is scary though.
Failure is very scary. Yeah, a lot of people don't like failing, but the way I see it and the way a lot of successful people see it, I'm not saying I'm successful, nor will I be. I hope I will be.
We will be, don't worry.
um, you need to fail. You have to, absolutely have to fail in order. Oh my
I
God, we're not
wanna,
gonna have this
I don't
conversation
want to
again.
fail, Pete.
But it's necessary.
I could win the lottery. Don't kick the table, Pete.
Stop, bro. Stop, bro. You have to fail.
You're right. I wish you weren't right, but you are.
I mean, I'm not saying it for the sake of being right. I'm saying it because
It's true.
if you go on a path that's not traveled and you expect to know exactly what you're gonna have looking forward, then you're just deluding yourself. You know, you can't expect to know unless you do something about it. You have to actually experience it. You need to go through it. And you will fall down, but what happens and what makes you you and what makes you happy, because this is another thing that leads to your happiness as well, is realizing that you have built the strength through several failures, one after the other. Like if you failed once, fail again. I commend you for doing it, and I urge you to fail again.
Yeah, respect. You
Yeah,
gotta respect the guy who tries.
you will start building this toughness about yourself. You'll be able to weather the storm. You'll know, like, once you've failed once, you're like, oh, maybe that wasn't so bad. Let me do it again. You do it again, and you keep going, and then once you first get that first success,
Now
and
you know how to succeed.
you know exactly how to succeed. Exactly. And I guarantee you, once you see that success, you'll feel happy in the slightest bit. You know.
You will feel pretty happy
Oh,
at
yeah,
that moment.
exactly. And so you can just replicate it again. And then when you start another thing that you love, and you start reiterating upon that, you make a bunch of failures. Then you get that first success. Oh wow, there's that same emotional high I'm feeling. I'm happy. I'm feeling good about myself. I achieved something.
You achieved what you wanted to achieve.
Exactly. You know, no
Um,
one. Failures harden people, I think, and they're necessary. You need them.
Yeah, you're right. Another thing that's great about failure, relative, Pete, is that when you make a mistake, typically you won't make that same mistake again. You know, and if you don't, and
Yeah.
if you do make that mistake again for the second time, there's an even higher chance the third time or the fourth time,
Yes.
or who knows how many times. I don't know.
He was trying to reference me forgetting my headphones again.
In case it was too subtle.
Yeah.
We'll tune in next week to find out if the headphone debacle ever gets resolved.
It probably won't.
We'll see. But yeah, no. Like for example, in my current job, I didn't know how to code in Visual Basic for applications, which is basically the coding language used for Microsoft products
Yep.
like Word and PowerPoint and Excel. I didn't know how to code it. I knew how to code other things, but I had to use Visual Basic. They basically said you're not allowed to use other coding languages. So I literally I literally looked at what I needed to do, and I was like, okay, do it like this, and it would not work. And I was like, oh, it's not working. Why isn't it working? And then I'd Google it, figure out the solution, and then learn it. And then like do it correctly, and then do it again correctly, and then do it again correctly. And I've done it so many times over the last year and a half that like I'm pretty good at it. Like I won't say master because there's a lot of functionality that I haven't learned, but for the functionality that I needed to learn, I memorized it. Like I became quote unquote successful at being a Visual Basic developer, you know? And it only came from me spending hours, like literally hundreds of hours studying this stuff and doing it and failing and messing up and testing it out
Yep.
and going again and again.